Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
Today, we're jumping into some big rugby news, specifically that massive Springbok squad announcement.
Yeah, the 54-man list.
Exactly. Our source is an article from Planet Rugby titled Springbok Squad Winners and Losers, Rassie's Ultimate Bolters, Roux Snub.
Yeah, a pretty direct title.
It is. So, our mission today is to unpack this article. We want to look at this huge squad, see who the source flags as the winners and the losers.
And crucially, why.
Right. And figure out what these choices might tell us about Rassie Erasmus' thinking for, well, the July games and defending that rugby championship title.
Yeah, it's a big squad for a big schedule. Barbarians, Italy twice, Georgia, then the rugby championship.
The source points out they used 50 players in total for all of 2024.
And now 54 named right at the start, including 9 uncapped players. That's significant.
9 new faces straight away. It feels like Rassie's casting a seriously wide net, doesn't it? Maybe throwing a few curveballs early on?
Definitely suggests that. You know, post-World Cup cycle, there's always some reassessment. But 54 players, 9 uncapped. It feels like a deliberate strategy. Building depth, checking out options, creating competition right from the get-go. Future-proofing, maybe?
Keeping everyone on their toes, like you said. Okay, let's get into the specifics then. The article frames it as winners and losers. Who does the source highlight as the big winners?
Well, they start with what they call the ultimate bolters, the real eyebrow raisers.
Who's first?
Ntokozo Makhaza.
Makhaza, a Varsity Cup star, right? For UCT Ikes.
That's the one. Steered them to win the competition. The source notes he's been picked up by the Cheetahs?
For the Curry Cup.
Yeah, but here's the kicker. According to the source, he hasn't actually played a professional senior match yet.
Wow. No URC, no Senior Curry Cup, straight from Varsity Cup into a Bokke training squad.
Pretty much. That's a proper bolter. The source calls it a dream opportunity based purely on, well, raw talent and potential.
What's his profile? Kicker, outside back.
Yeah, outside back, good under the high ball, and crucially, a reliable goal kicker. Rassie must see something seriously special there.
Huge leap of faith. Who's the other ultimate bolter?
Renzo du Plessis, a flanker from the Lions.
I remember him bursting onto the URC scene late last season.
Exactly. The source mentions his Curry Cup form, but really highlights those, 3 big starts he had in the URC at flanker made a real impact.
They call him a live wire flanker. What does that mean in practice?
Think dynamic. A threat at the breakdown, got pace, got power. His inclusion, the source suggests, just adds more firepower to that loose forward group.
Which is already stacked with Khaleesi, Quagga Smith, Van Staden.
And potentially someone like Cameron Hanekom coming through too. Du Plessis' form must have just been undeniable.
Okay, so 2 clear bolters getting nods for potential and recent impact. Who else is in the winner's circle, according to Planet Rugby?
Jean-Luc Dupries gets a mention. He's been consistently good for Sale Sharks in England.
Before his move to Bordeaux, yeah.
Right. And the source really emphasizes his utility value, covering flanker, number 8, even lock.
And with Elroy out injured, that kind of versatility is...
Well, it's gold, isn't it? Absolutely. Covers multiple bases. Then there's Warno Augustus, another loose forward from the Premiership.
Northampton Saints. He had a strong season, part of that Champions Cup final run.
He did. The source notes his consistency and driving play. And they make a pretty bold claim.
Go on.
That Augustus seems to have sort of usurped Evan Roos in the pecking order.
Ooh, okay. That's a big statement. We'll definitely need to circle back to Roos when we talk losers.
For sure. But for Augustus, it's clear his Premiership form has paid off.
Right. The article then groups the other 6 uncapped players as winners, too. Can you quickly run through those?
Yeah, it shows where else you're looking. There's Marnus van der Merwe, the hooker from Scarlets. The source calls him a revelation.
Suggesting he's jumped ahead of guys like Grobbelaar and Dweba.
That's the implication in the article, yeah. Shaking up that hooker depth chart behind Marks and Mbonambi.
Interesting. Who else?
2 tight head props. Meethling Fouche from the Stormers, who stepped up well when Malherbe was out.
And Asanathi Natlabakanye from the Lions. That's competition there.
Exactly. Then Cobus Wise, the Bulls, lock or blindside. His first call-up after really good form since coming back to SA.
Deserved, based on his Bulls performances.
Seems so. Vintage Chituka from the Sharks finally gets the green light to represent the Bulls, which is significant.
Had been eligibility questions before, right?
Yeah. And finally, Ethan Hooker, also Sharks, center or wing. Source says sensational form.
Okay, so that's the 9 uncapped guys, and the article's point is they're all there on merit, based on recent form.
Yeah, it doesn't matter where you play Curry Cup, URC, Europe. If you're performing, you're in the conversation.
And speaking of being back in the conversation, a huge name returning, Lood Jager.
Massive winner, according to the source. A powerhouse lock, 66 caps, missed the World Cup through injury and illness, which was heartbreaking for him.
So his return is a major boost.
Huge. Especially for the lineout. The article calls him a true set-piece general. Expect him to link up with Eben Etzebeth again. They've partnered 39 times, apparently.
Wow. That experience is invaluable.
Definitely adds serious weight to the tight five. And one more veteran winner mentioned, Willie Roux.
Ah, Willie. Closing in on 100 test caps.
Yeah, incredible servant. The source is clear, though. While the 100 caps is a nice story, his recent form for the Bulls fully justifies his place.
Despite competition from Fassi, Feinberg, Mungamazulu, Willemse.
Exactly. His selection is based on merit, on how he's playing right now. The source does speculate this might be his last international year, so that century mark would be fitting.
It's quite a mix then. You've got absolute rookies like Makhaza and seasoned campaigners like Jager and Roux.
It really shows a dual strategy, doesn't it? Build for the future, but also rely on the proven quality and form of the experienced guys still delivering.
Okay, let's flip the coin. The losers, according to the Planet Rugby article, and just to be clear, this is the source's take on who missed out based on expectations or past involvement, not a judgment on their overall quality.
Exactly. And the biggest name here, the one causing the most buzz, is Evan Roos.
Yeah, his omission was a surprise to many. He missed the alignment camp, too.
The source acknowledges there are different theories flying around, but their analysis leans towards maybe his recent form, specifically mentioning the Stormers' URC quarterfinal loss.
So the suggestion is maybe he didn't quite hit the required level in that key game and perhaps drop down the pecking order for now?
That seems to be the interpretation from the source, yeah. A potential form-based dip at a crucial time. They do wonder if Rassie's sending a message. But they also say, look, a player like Roux can't be too far away. It's still a tough exclusion for him right now.
Yeah, definitely. Who else does the source highlight in this losers category?
They look at hooker again. While Van der Merwe got in, the article points out how dominant Marks and Mbonambi have been since, 2018.
Yeah, a very established pair.
So guys who were seen as next in line, Johan Grabelaar, Joseph Driba, they didn't make this a 54-man squad. Andre Hugo Venter also missed out.
That really underlines how tough it is to break into that position.
It does. Van der Merwe got the nod this time, plus John Hendrik Wessels, who offers utility cover. But for Grabelaar and Dwiba, the source sees this as a setback.
And sticking with the forwards, the loose forwards, more snubs.
Oh, yeah. The source calls the depth rather ridiculous.
Right.
They list players like Roux Venter and Marcel Coetzee as notable exclusions despite strong seasons.
Coetzee, he seems to be perennially overlooked recently, despite his form for the Bulls.
The article is quite direct about Coetzee. Says he's been continually overlooked and even speculates if he's played his last test, which is a big call.
Shows the incredible competition for those back row spots.
It really does. Fepsi Plessis, who debuted earlier in the year, is out this time, though the source thinks he'll get another shot later.
Yay.
And interestingly, Renzo du Plessis got in from the Lions. But his teammates, J.C. Pretorius and Frank Horn, although Horn's injured, didn't. Shows the fine margins.
Dan Dupree's still on the outer. Hunter Liebenberg at Leicester.
Yep, source mentions Dan Dupree's is still fringe. And Liebenberg, despite tearing up trees in England, according to the article, hasn't cracked this particular squad.
It's almost an embarrassment of riches in the loose forwards. Tough calls must have been made.
A massive headache for the coaches, but a great position for South African rugby to be in, depth-wise.
Finally, the source mentions players who are losers, but through no fault of their own.
Right, the injured guys. Key players not considered because they're recovering. Frans Malherbe, Ray Lowe, Ben Jason Dixon, Dion Forey, Trevor Nyakane.
Big names there. The source uses the term catch-22 for them.
Yeah, meaning it's obviously gutting for them to miss out due to injury. But the positive side, the source notes, is that SA Rugby has confirmed these players are absolutely still in the plans once fit.
So their absence is purely down to injury, not selection preference. They're still highly valued.
Exactly. They remain firmly on the radar for when they recover.
Okay, we've covered the winners and losers as laid out by Planet Rugby. Let's try and, connect these dots. What does this huge squad, this mix of players, really signal about Rassie's strategy heading into the season?
Well, like we touched on, the sheer size, 54 players and those 9 uncapped guys, it's clearly deliberate, early in the new World Cup cycle.
Building on using 50 players last year.
Exactly. It confirms that wide net approach. Get a look at as many potential options as possible early. Build depth. See who sinks or swims in the Bokke environment.
Getting them in the system now, not waiting until year 3 or 4.
Right. And the fascinating part, as the source highlights, is that balance. You've got the raw potential like Makhaza and Plessis,
Straight out of Varsity Cup or brief URC exposure.
alongside the proven returning veterans like Jager and Roux, who are still playing brilliantly. It's not just about youth. It's about integrating the best available talent, young and old.
So leveraging experience while fast-tracking newcomers creates a competitive blend.
Absolutely. And if you look at the losers list from the source, that tells its own story. The quality of loose forwards and hookers left out, despite good form, it screams intense competition.
Yeah, the depth is incredible.
It shows that just being good isn't always enough. You need to be exceptional or maybe fit a very specific need Rassie has right now. The Roux situation, as framed by the source around form, sends that message too. Standards are sky high.
Okay, so putting it all together, large squad, mix of bolters and veterans, high-quality omissions, it all points towards building massive internal competition and assessing a wide talent pool right from the start.
Yeah, it's an early season assessment phase. Put the pressure on, see who steps up. Which brings us to a question for you listening. What do you think about these selections based on what we've pulled from the article? Any big surprises for you, inclusions or exclusions?
We've gone through Planet Rugby's take, the winners, the losers, the potential reasons like form, utility, potential injury, or just that incredible depth.
It gives a pretty clear picture, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Management actively shaping things for the next cycle, mixing the known with the new.
So wrapping up this deep dive based on the source, it looks like the Springboks are kicking off the season by embracing new blood, dealing with that good problem of having too much talent leading to tough calls and navigating injuries. Definitely sets up an intriguing season.
For sure. And maybe a final thought for you to chew on. With all these new faces getting a shot, the experienced guys back, and competition so fierce, how do you see the battle for starting spots actually playing out? Through the July tests, into the Rugby Championship, which of these new guys will grab their chance?
Lots to think about. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.